So I'm gonna clean this lens off real quick. Just real quick. Give me a sec, guys. It's been a long day. Lots of questions. Look at this beautiful countryside. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna step out here. Talk to you from outside. Hopefully the reception stays good. I keep getting a lot of messages about listen to this YouTuber, listen to that YouTuber. I think this. Hello, everyone. I think that. Um, I'm gonna be vaping while I'm doing this. I'm stressed out. I vape. I hope you guys don't mind. Uh, People want me to go look at this person's information, look at that person's information. I've even got some really nasty comments from some people that act like they actually care about people, but they really don't care about people, and you can tell by the way that they respond. And yes, me being a social person like I am, and doing the things that I do in public, I need to watch what I say, but at the same time, sometimes, I'm a human being too. I just let it rip. And things get the best of me sometimes. I like to think that I'm pretty hardcore overall, but even big old bad teddy bears break down. And when people say really mean things to you, sometimes it hurts. It really does hurt. It hurts pretty bad. There was a. I'm not even going to say the person's name because I don't want to be that petty. Um, there was a person in particular that has been trolling these groups, and they're going back and forth between Critical K and 10 to Life and me and other YouTubers just like me, uh, and they leave messages. They'll play favorite to one and then go around and play everyone else against each other, and they forget that the whole thing is about Sophie. They forget the whole entire thing is about this little girl, whatever, however it happens, having a better life than what she had before. We don't know the circumstances completely. All we know is what social media puts out to us. That's as far as we've gotten. We've seen the stuff from the police. We've seen a lot of hearsay stuff. Whatever happened to somebody being guilty or being innocent until proven guilty? Who are we to be the jurors in this whole entire thing? We can see and speak from emotion in our opinions, but some of us are awfully strong about opinions that almost lead into something that is being presented as fact. And that's where all this starts to break down. Some of the people that say that they actually care, in the process of getting emotional about everything, often seem like some of the ugliest people that you have to deal with on social media. Somebody left me a comment and said, "Why do you keep talking about your life? Nobody gives a shit about your life. Nobody fucking cares about you. Nobody cares about anything that's happened to you. You're just a big fucking joke." And I was going to blast that person. I was going to put the message up so everybody can see what happened. I was going to put it all here so everybody could see what kind of person this was. But I thought to myself, how petty would that be of me to do that? It's not going to solve anything. That person is going to go to somebody else's page and they're going to do the same thing. So I'm not even going to block them from the page. I'm going to let them continue to harass me. Because if I can give them that outlet, it'd be the punching bag, that stops them from going somewhere else. You know, who says stuff like that to people? Who says that? That's cruel and evil. It's an emotional thing because you would like to think people are not like that in the world. But anyway, let me get out of my slump. We have people playing all these channels against each other. So let's put this out here this way. Let's change this up just a little bit. So let's say Sophie has been coached. Let's okay, I get that. So let's put it on pause for a second. Let me get this out. Let's say Sophie has been coached. What good has come of Sophie? Let's just speak of it as she's been coached. What good has come of Sophie being coached? I'll tell you what good has come of it. Me living vicariously through this girl. Her giving me a voice that I never had before. Her and her situation giving thousands of people all over the fucking world a chance to actually be heard and be able to talk about our situations. A chance for people that never thought that they would be heard before are now heard. People are looking at the way things are done all over the entire world. CPS organizations and police stations all over the entire world. The world. This is not just a one state type of deal. This is not just in the United States. We got people in Canada. We got people in Australia and the UK looking back and saying, wait a second, are we really handling these things correctly? So say Sophie's been coached and all this was a big scheme. It changed the entire world. I was watching a reporter interviewing CPS in Canada, and people were looking at things and saying, you know what? I don't think that we were doing this correctly. I don't think that we're actually helping these children the way we should be helping these children. I think maybe we should start looking at the way these policies and stuff and the way these things are done, and we should start doing something a little bit different because it's not effective. I looked at stories all the way back to 2008 where people were trying to figure out what was going on. So if we look at this entire situation and we find out in the long run that Michael was coaching her, that the mother was in on the whole entire thing, that all this money's getting split up between everybody, Sophie made it possible because of the abuse that she was taking from whoever it was, regardless at the end of the day if it was Michael that was doing it, if it was Kelly that was doing it, whoever it was, if it was Sarah or Jem. Sophie took the abuse from somebody and was used like a puppet, some way, shape, or form. And some bad things were done to her. But what she had to go through gave the rest of the world a voice. It gave everybody else in the world an opportunity to come forward and meet people like me and you to say, oh my God, I never thought I'd be able to talk about this, but I also endured this kind of abuse. I also had to deal with this type of situation. I also had to advocate for somebody else, and I could never do that before. Nobody would listen to me before. So if you look at the entire situation for one moment and you think this was for nothing, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's pointless going to these other channels. I think it's pointless going to these other URLs and .coms and everything else and leaving comments where people are literally trying to rip each other apart. Oh, look what this guy's saying over there. Look what she's saying over there. Leaving links. Look at this psychotic psychic on another channel that claims to be this super professional, this and that, and he knows what's up because he's got a professional title. I'm a professional, and I've been wrong in my job. It's life. That doesn't mean that I know everything. That doesn't mean I have the ultimate say in anything that has to do with my job. I can still be wrong. I can still do something wrong. I can still fix a vehicle the wrong way, and the customer ends up coming back and wasting more time. Something has come of this and made so many more people stronger. People that thought that they would never be heard are now being heard. So all of you out there that felt like you were lost, like you couldn't talk to anybody, like nobody wanted you, have a voice now. You are living through whatever she went through, and she was basically a sacrifice for the world's voice when nobody was listening. And it's sad to say that, but that's the stone cold truth. And now we have to speak up to make sure that she is remembered and that she is constantly talked about, and that the rest of that everybody else knows. Because of a 9-year-old girl, the rest of the world woke up because she was being abused by somebody, whatever that was. People are now listening. So the negative, nasty messages about Don't use your experience. This is about Sophie. And you have some grown woman showing up on the page and saying, I came here to listen to about Sophie. Why am I listening to you? How pathetic and petty does somebody have to be when somebody is laying out a story and they're trying to say, look, this happened to me. I've seen this go on throughout my entire life. This is why I'm telling you my story. And this is why I'm so emotional about what happened to this girl, because I can't be there to help her. But I'm going to do everything that I can on my end to do what I can to make sure, even if this whole entire story is completely fictitious, people hear about child abuse. People hear about trafficking. People hear about the abuse that go on in the world that doesn't need to go on, because we should all be more compassionate and love each other. The fact of the matter is, children are so docile. Children are very, very delicate. We go through life thinking, when a child falls down, that's a child. They're fine. They'll get right back up and they'll be right back at it again. Physically, you're right. Mentally and emotionally, they haven't established any kind of structure to build off of to know what to take to heart and what not to take to heart. So when you abuse a child like that, or people in general that haven't been stable enough to build those foundations on how to deal with a specific situation, you ruin them. You literally ruin them. They grow up not knowing what to do, and it takes years and years and years and years to catch up and fix what has went wrong with them. I put out a post that talked about the amount of stress that children have to deal with that are being abused at a young age, that can physically and mentally, and I can't even say that. I should say health-wise, can destroy them without you even knowing. And after I put that post out, and I talked about the constant cortisol release, the constant taxing of the fight or flight system in a child throughout their entire life, their younger years, their development years, and you destroy them, and you don't even realize you're doing it, because that is the very building block mechanism of how that child grows up and develops. When their hormones are out of whack all the time, when they're constantly in that fight or flight system all the time, they cannot develop properly. There are things that go wrong with them internally because you have just wrecked everything. So as much as we'd like to sit here and point the finger and blame everybody for everything that's going on and tell people, oh, you're not this and you're not that and you're putting ads on your channel and you're just a terrible person, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing out there to sit there and complain about everybody else and what they're doing, but you're sitting on a keyboard and you're literally attacking everybody else while you're doing nothing? Nothing. That's what I don't get about all this. People need to wake up and realize the type of mental issues that children grow up with after this, the type of physical issues that they grow up with, and how the development of their overall foundation, organ health, bone structure, muscle mass, skeletal tissue, how all these different things where these children are abused. Oftentimes these children that are abused and used like this as objects to people, they don't ever recover from a lot of this stuff. Like me. I'm 34 years old. I was abused my entire life up until I was 13 years old, and I decided I had enough and I ran away. I live with those health issues today. I got the scars all over my body and stuff today, and I see them every day, and they remind me about what happened. Now, there's ways to deal with that, and I don't want people to feel sorry for me. My teeth, they're all chipped, every single one of them. She beat me in the mouth. She would hit me in the mouth with objects. The gaps in the top of my teeth, I had teeth from up here growing in on top of the lower teeth, and it screwed everything up, and she would never take me to the doctor. She would never take me to the dentist. I was held in the house for years. And these things physically and mentally destroy me still today, but I've learned to deal with a lot of that. There's so many people out there that don't understand the luxuries that they have of living the life that they live, to not have been pushed through a life like that. The stress that these children have to go through and develop themselves through that stress level is absurd. It's unheard of. And then you get people like me, Tend to Life, Critical K, the rambling mommy, or whatever she is. And we all come together and we start talking about stuff, and other people bringing stuff to our attention and feeding us information so we can continue to talk about things and really get the ball rolling, so more and more and more people can come in. And all of a sudden, the attacks come, the accusations come. People are like, oh, I need you to share your story with me because I don't believe you. And then I share my story, and then they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Why do people do that? You come across as an innocent person that really cares about children and stuff like that, and you challenge everything along the way. And people come across as these caring, loving people, and then all of a sudden they just destroy their image and the way they come across by the stupid, silly things that they do. It makes no sense to me. You know, if it wasn't for these children that are, if it wasn't for Michael and Sophie and Kelly, none of us would be talking right now. We wouldn't be able to communicate about the things that we deal with, because nobody listened. You know how many times I got on here and I talked about my story? You know how many times I got on here and I talked about child abuse and statistics with foster care and everything else? And nobody cared. It's not that anybody cared. There was no algorithm for it. It wasn't a hot YouTube topic. It wasn't something that got pushed out in front of everybody else. But now all of a sudden you see this 34-year-old guy crying his eyes out in front of a screen because of a 9-year-old girl. And now the world's ready to wake up. You see grown folks all over the place that are in their 40s and 50s that have lived with these things their whole entire life and haven't been able to get any kind of closure because they've never actually been able to open up and pour it out to people. And now here we are. You know, the biggest problem with this whole entire situation is these organizations, they don't handle this stuff correctly. They let things slip. They hire people that are very, very poor at their job. A lot of people that make the calls are people that don't even have any kind of real life experience. You have college students that are coming out of college with degrees that are being put into families' homes in charge of their children and their lives, and they're literally, they're green, and they're trying to figure everything out, and I'm not against them at all. But just like we're mad at the police for everything that's going on in the world, just like we're mad at the lack of training and stuff when people are getting hurt in police custody, right? Some people are concerned about that. And I am a little bit, but I'm pro-police. What I'm getting at here is we want all this additional training for everybody else, but we'll put the people with the least amount of experience in charge of our families' lives. We'll put the people in the system. Let me tell you a story real quick. 14 years old, I'm out riding my bike, and the night before I had got in trouble by my foster mother and father, and I had left like a soda can or something like that out on the counter in the table, and they said, you know, we've already asked you to clean that up. You know, we're gonna take the PlayStation away from you if you don't start cleaning up after yourself. You got to throw that stuff in the trash. We've talked to you so many times about that. We want you to actually listen to what we're saying. So it was only right, they were trying to do what they were supposed to do as parents. So they're too soft-hearted, you know. They were really, really nice, kind, loving people. I love them to death. I'm out riding my bike. The next day, they dropped everything. I got the message, clean up after yourself. I get it. Well, I'm out riding my bike. I come back home, pull my bike up in the driveway, and I notice there's my caseworker's car parked in the driveway. And I says, hey Mom, hey Dad. I go up and kiss my mom on the cheek and go get a bottle of water, and I'm sitting there. I was like, why is she here? And my mom's bawling her eyes out. What's wrong with you, Mom? Why is my dad's face red? What is going on here? What the hell is going on here? And all of it, I kind of figured out what was going on. The reason they were so emotional, she was there to take me away. She was there to take me away. And I couldn't figure out why. I was removed from the home. I was put in another foster home, and another foster home, and another foster home. And this went on for years. And I couldn't figure out what happened. Why? I was living in a 2,600 square foot home, beautiful out in suburbia, all going to a really nice school, really nice parents, really nice life, and I finally had something that was, it seemed like normal to me. It seemed like this is the family that you see on TV. This is the family that everybody would want. Tuck you in at bed, kiss you on the cheek, the kind of life, double vanity bathroom for a 14-year-old. This is unheard of. You're living as a king, right? Not normal, but I was living above normal standards because they actually had really good jobs and they were really good parents. And taken care of the whole way around. I mean, everything. And then all of a sudden, just one day, all of it ripped away from you, and you're moved from foster home to foster home to foster home. I couldn't figure out why. What happened? What made all this happen? So the years pass by. I'm off to school and stuff like that. Right after I got out of the army, here I am. Let's see. When did I get out of college? I got out of college two or so 14. So in 14, my foster father is the financial director of the college. After all these years, we're still together. I still call him, mom and dad. I'm sitting down in his office, and he says, I have to tell you something that I never told you before. And he said, do you remember back when you were 14 years old and you were removed from our home, and you're bounced around over and over and over and over and over and over and over again? I said, yeah, Dad. And he says, they removed you because she literally didn't like the way me and your mother were raising you. It had nothing to do with anything that anybody did wrong. Everything was completely fine, Rich. We loved you. We adored you. You were our everything. Everything that we could have ever wanted, because me and your mom can't have kids. And literally because we were doing things that they didn't like. They were jealous of us. There was a lot of political stuff going on. There was people calling the shots higher up, telling them to come out there, and we don't know what happened. We have no idea what happened. And we still to this day don't know exactly why they came and did that. All we were told is the living standards for the child are not being met. We had you in school, you had all the clothes, all the food in the world, your freedom with your friends and stuff like that. You were living a life that most kids would dream of living, and they came in and just took you out and didn't tell us anything other than the standards for the child are not being met. Why? And just moved away from foster home to foster home to foster home. And here's the sad reality of all this. The next foster home I went to was a woman that was like 30, 35, 36, 37 years old, mid-30s, somewhere in there. Her husband about 40 years old. She had a little girl that was special needs. This wasn't a foster family. This was not a foster family at all. I was in this home, and this woman would walk around in her underwear. She would leave her sexual toys and stuff out in the bedroom so everybody could see. She didn't hide it from the kids. She would come out of the shower with no top on. She was gone all the time. Her husband was back and forth all the time, wasn't even with her. He didn't know where she was at half the time. And she made dinner, I ate dinner, I was put to bed, I was told to go to bed, I would go to bed, I'd get up, I'd go to school, I'd come home, I'd have to stay in my room, and it was the same thing over and over and over again. It was a paycheck for them. It was a $450 paycheck every month that they were going to collect for me, and they were going to do the minimum to get me through so they could make the maximum of the money. And that's what they would do. They would bring in 1, 2, 3, 4 foster kids, and they would give them the minimum, the bare minimum to just escape by. And that's how they raise their kids. That's how a lot of these people make bank off foster care. And a lot of people are like, well, you can't make a lot off foster care. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You get 5 or 6 children in your home getting paid $450 to $900 a month, depending on what special needs they are. And you do the minimum for that child, and they already come with clothes, and all you do is shop at Aldi and buy the bottom of the barrel food, and you got a check for each one of them children. That starts to add up. And they're always at their friend's house all the time. See, that's another tactic of foster parents. Oh, you can go to your friend's house. Yeah, sure, go to your friend's house this weekend. Maybe you can go stay at Johnny's house this weekend. 2, 3, 4 days in a row, right? Summertime, always over at the friend's house. Always push and go over to the friend's house. So you live in somebody else's home, eating their food in their parents' care all the time, while you're not fostering anybody. You're collecting a paycheck. And the sad reality of all this is a tactic used by shitty foster parents. Okay, so we press on. I was in another foster family, 16 years old, 5 kids in the house, all teenagers, 2 girls and 3 boys. The foster family lived upstairs. They had a refrigerator. They had a refrigerator upstairs. They had a microwave, a big giant, like a kitchen microwave upstairs, like that you could cook a lot of stuff in. Not like a regular small countertop, like what do you call that? A convection oven, kind of like a giant microwave, but they put it upstairs. And then she had all her cigarettes and stuff up there. They had a bathroom and stuff upstairs. So when he would come home from work, listen to this. Now this gets interesting. This is where the corruption begins. This is where you can really see what's going on. When he came home from work, he would park his car in a garage. He'd pop his head in, look at all the kids and stuff, go right upstairs. He'd go straight upstairs to his wife. They would stay upstairs for the rest of the evening, and they would barely ever come down. They might come down every once in a while if there was something in the other fridge downstairs that they needed, but they lived upstairs. This was a 3-level home, or a upstairs, a downstairs, and a basement that was fully furnished. And they built these rooms in this house so they could literally have as many foster kids in this home as possible. So I'm thinking to myself, what kind of foster home is this? I've never seen this, to where you never see the foster parents. They're just never around. You never see them. He's gone to work before you go to school, and then he comes home after you get home from school, and then he's right upstairs. So you see him in the transitions from the garage, maybe to the kitchen, or from the garage straight upstairs. They were never in our lives. We never saw them. We didn't even know what was going on with them. The school didn't. We would let people in and out of the house all the time. Nobody knew who was there. The drugs that were in and out of the house, the girls that were in and out of the house with the older boys, nobody knew what was going on. They never knew. They never had a clue what was going on in their own home. They were literally collecting a check. They lived upstairs in the home and didn't pay attention to any of the children that were in the home. They didn't care. They had no clue. So, what ends up happening? Another foster kid comes. Another check comes along with it. Then this foster kid, she kind of come from a really rough past. And she wasn't so very nice, right? Well, she's got intentions of, oh, there's a bunch of boys in the home. Ooh, boys. And I'm 15, 16 years old, and there's boys that are 15, 16, 17 years old. What do you think comes along with that? Yeah, you guessed it. Uncontrolled. Sneaking off in boys' bedrooms, doing whatever that... I mean, in somebody else's home, and they don't even know what's going on. Nobody paying attention to this stuff. Eventually, I get moved to another foster home. I get moved 2 hours away. I go to another foster home. I'm like, oh, another big, nice home. Out here in the middle of nowhere. Really nice people, really peaceful people. Again, 6, 7 children. At the time, I didn't know why so many kids would be living in this big old giant home. Massive furnished basement, half-acre lot out back of the house. Big, huge garden outside the home. Couple vehicles and stuff like that. Guy worked for FedEx. The girl didn't work. She stayed home all the time. Guess what ended up happening? Teenagers, again. Nobody knowing what was going on. Nobody paying attention to what was going on. One girl bringing her boyfriend all the time. And the next thing you know, I made a mistake. I got drawn into it. I really liked this girl. 17 years old. And she was 16. Push comes to shove. I'm exposed to this life for a long, long, long time, not knowing what to do. and I succumbed to it. At 17 years old, I did something that I shouldn't have done. I'm not proud of it. It happened. I ended up in the bed with this girl. A bunch of stuff happened. First time ever in my life. And I'm being called down to the dinner table one night. Hey, can you tell us why your shoes were next to her bed? Because when your foster father got up, he saw your shoes right by the room, and you're never in that room. You're not allowed in that room. And I'm like, so I'm just going to be straight with you. We ended up doing something that we shouldn't have done. I I tried everything in my power not to do it, but you know what type of person she is. She's a very manipulative girl. A lot of stuff happened to her from with her parents, and basically taught her. She learned from them, and it worked on me. And I'm gonna take full responsibility for it. I did something that I should not have done, and I told her I don't want to get into the details of it. I am guilty of. I was there, and I should not have been there. And she knew right away. She said, "Okay, I appreciate you being honest. Go ahead and go back to your room, and I'll call you back down in a little bit." Well, she calls her down there, and she lies. She lies like a Persian rug on a rich man's floor. And next thing I know, I'm being called back downstairs to say, "You're not in trouble or anything like that. You're perfectly fine. Um, we don't like the fact that you did what you did, but you're honest with us. And that's what counts, is the fact that you were honest with us. We're going to be asking for her to have another placement somewhere else. We don't want her in this home because this is not the first time this has happened." Why am I telling you guys these things? These children continually are abused. When they leave the home, that's not it. It doesn't stop there. When they leave the home, it's a different type of abuse. It's a different type of caring for the child. It's a different type of them continually learning to be bad people in life, so after they become adults, they have never learned anything. The types of families that they're put with, oftentimes at a higher percentage, are not really, they're not families that actually care about them. They're families that maybe at one point in time when they started, they felt like, okay, I'm going to be a foster parent. Maybe CPS actually thought they were doing their job. But these parents get overwhelmed with more children and more responsibilities and more children and more responsibilities. And I understand. I understand that that's not an excuse, but that is an excuse. And eventually that attitude, well, you're not my kid, you're not my child, they don't care as much. And that's facts. It is facts. And if anything comes of this whole entire conversation tonight, it's me exposing exactly what's going on in the world with the way our foster care system is run, the way manipulative people perform and just go about life in general. These are the facts. This is what happens. So, where was I going with the whole thing that I pointed out? The guy, I said I was gonna show you exactly where the corruption was going. Listen, this is it. The guy that would come home, go right upstairs, and then leave, and never see the kids, and was collecting a check for every single person that was in that home. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 children in that home. And at one point in time, 7. There was a girl that was special needs for a little bit, and they were really, really mean to that girl. I mean, the kids were 15, 16, 17, and 18 years old. All of them like 15, 16, 17, and 18. And the younger girl, she was only like 12 or 13 years old, but she was special needs. They got more money for her. And they abused and picked at that girl, called her names, made her feel unwelcome, all the time. All the time. And it's a continuing perpetuation of more violence more destruction in this child's life that she's never going to forget. And she's always going to remember the system as the way it was. Now, the same guy that lived upstairs worked for CPS. Worked for an affiliate of CPS. Catholic Charities, which is another DCFS, CPS type thing. They're all tied in together. He worked for them. He had his own office. Talk about a conflict of interest here. Talk about collecting money to do a job that you're supposed to do, and then turning around and having 7 children in your home and not giving a flying fuck about one of them, so you can continue to not only collect your paycheck, but collect a check for every child that was in your home as well. Tell me that that is not corruption. Tell me that's not corruption. And the man that was running the organization was in on it too. Come on. No, he worked for the foster agency, Catholic Charities. The man that was the foster father worked for the foster agency. That's where he went to work every single day. How do you do this and get by it? And counselors come out, caseworkers come out to look at all these children, and you continue to just fly under the freaking radar, and nobody figure out exactly what's going on in that home. Because he was part of the organization that was collecting money off these kids, and it continues to go on to this freaking day. There are cases like this all over the place that people don't understand, that state money is being laundered through these foster parents right back into the agency. And some of these people work for them. One home, the guy worked for FedEx. The other home, where I stated the guy that lived upstairs and we lived downstairs. So 2 different families, 2 different times. The one that had all the teenagers living in there that he would never see was the one working for Catholic Charities. The people that were placing children in homes. So you mean to tell me you can sit here right now, there's 48 of you on this screen right now, 49. You mean to tell me right now 49 of you cannot say, if one of you told me right now that that was not corruption, I'd tell you you're crazy, you're out of your mind. A man working for the organization that's putting children in the homes, that's never in the children's lives, is the foster father of those children, collecting a check for every single one of them, never involved, doesn't even know what's going on in his own home. How in the world can you even justify that? Oh, because they have a home, they're not being abused. This is the stuff that goes on in the system that people do not realize. This is exactly what's going on. It's few and far between that it's a good, honest home, a good, loving, caring home. You know, I went to a foster home in between all this. I told you there was a bunch of homes in between the first one and the last 2 that I mentioned. I went to a home out in Southern Illinois. The best home that I'd really ever been in, other than my initial family. The guy had a farm out in the middle of nowhere, and he had 3 beautiful daughters. And down the road from his farm, he had about 750 head of cattle. He was a cattle farmer. But he also had 200 head of sheep on his farm. And there were acres of land with corn and all kinds of stuff, and it was just a very nice country life. So I move in. I see these little cars outside. Like, I don't know if you guys know, they're like the old little small cars. They're called MGs. I don't know if they're Triumph MGs. And that was his hobby. He worked on these little cars. And I'm in this home. Awesome guy, man. Wake up in the morning. Hey, Rich, let's go out. Let's go out and tend to the sheep. We go out, walk the corrals and stuff like that, make sure the sheep are okay, feed them all. He had a barn that had hundreds of cats in it, right? Wild cats. So we'd go out and we'd tend to these animals that are out there. And then later on, we'd head out to the cattle farm. We'd go feed all the cows at the cattle farm. You know, you had your feeders and you had your ones that were ready to go to slaughter and stuff like that, right? So we would go through and I lived this life with this guy, this farm life that was probably the most innocent, sincere life that I've ever lived in my entire life. The only real foster parent that actually cared about me was him, and he sat me down one day after about 3 weeks of living there, and he said, you know what, you're a good kid, and I'm really sorry about everything that I found out you went through. And he said, I'm going to love you to death forever, man, because everything that I tell you to do, you get out there, you work, you bust your butt, everything, you're going to be a good worker. I can tell, but I can't have you live here anymore. And I'm thinking about, why? What happened? He said, because I see a problem arising. My daughter has taken quite a bit of interest to you, and she's your same age. And I see her looking at you all the time. She's making mistakes in school and stuff like that. I notice she's trying to stay up later to try to figure out when you're going to bed and stuff. And there are some things in life that you won't pick up right now as a young man that you will in the future. And these are things a father notices about her daughter, or about his daughter right away. And I know it's going to be a problem. And you're supposed to be like her brother. And that's something that I could never let slip through my mind, is my daughter's already taken some kind of attraction to you. And I don't think I could let that go. It just is not going to be a good fit. And it's playing with dynamite. And I don't want you to think bad about me or anything, because he said, I love you to death. I think you're a good young man. But I don't want to break my family up and my daughter to have to learn bad habits and perpetuate this environment, because you're supposed to be her brother, but she's already taking a liking to you. And he said, honestly, to me, that's kind of just disgusting. That's something I could never deal with. And she's young and she don't know no better. And I'm going to sit her down and I'm going to talk to her about everything, but I'm going to wait for you to be placed in another home before I do that, because I don't want to embarrass her in front of everybody. I want it to just be me and her. And then I'll explain the situation. And I thought to myself, man, I'm being ripped out of another home where I could fall in love with this family like they're my family, you know, just like I was meant to be here. And every time you move from home to home to home and you get attached to that family, those little bits and pieces of your heart just keep getting ripped out and thrown to the wolves. And it makes it harder and harder and harder and harder for you to love the next family. It makes it difficult to open your heart up and your mind up to people and let them in when you're taught this lifestyle. When this becomes normal. When you're just waiting with your bags packed to be moved to the next place. Like you're just being dropped off at the next stop. Like it's a constant ticket to something else that never ends, because you're already expecting it to happen. And when this goes on through life over and over and over again, in the foster care system, they can't see what's going on. They don't care what's going on. What they care about is that child getting placed in a home so they can keep collecting the monies by the state to do their job. That's what it's about. It's not about the child. It's about providing employment for people. It's about collecting the monies and stuff from the state. It's a very, very piss poor life for children to grow up in and learn, because this is the environment that they're exposed to. And then when they become adults, they think this is normal. When they become adults, they don't know how to love people. They don't know how to care for people. They don't know how to be in touch with treating another child or something like that. This is why they end up becoming pedophiles and rapists and drug dealers and in prison. And then we stand up in society and point our finger at every damn person out there and say, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. Now you need to do the time for it because of the mistakes they made. When these were mistakes that were perpetuated and they were taught by society in general, and that child did not even have a say-so in the whole entire thing. It was something that was being bred that they didn't even realize was going to blow up to be some kind of violent thing in the future. And we want to point our finger at everybody and blame them because they're supposed to take control of their own life. It's their fault. And we wonder why people grow up so fucked up in this world and make the wrong choices. It's because we are the ones that breed it. We are the ones that teach it. And we don't do right by human beings. We destroy our own kind because we don't care. It's about financial gain and selfishness, and that's how we raise society. It's not like it was back in the day when a community raised the children together and a community cared about things as a group and dealt with things as a group. It's about selfishness now. It's about corruption and seeing how far you can get financially before somebody pops your top and says, you're guilty. I see what you're doing. Time for you to go to jail. And let's perpetuate this environment where the next person steps up and does the same thing. So, jump off topic. So in my case, going to Daniel Boone Elementary School. Going to school every single day. Daniel Boone Elementary School was off, it was out towards Western and Devon in Rogers Park area in Chicago. They would see the scars on my body where my head was split open. They would see the bruises all over my body. They would see the marks where I was beat and chained up and locked in rooms. They would often question themselves about everything that was going on, and people would look at me and have tears in their eyes because they could see something was being done to me, but they would never do anything about it. They would never go and report something. Do you know I sat in, what is it, third grade, and I was so scared to get up and ask to use the bathroom because of the things that were going on at home that I literally pissed in my pants sitting right there in the seat and refused to get up the entire day just so it could dry up and I could get up out of my seat and nobody would see that my pants were wet. I sat there the entire day with urine on my body because I was afraid if I got up to use the bathroom that I would get in trouble. You know, I pissed the bed until I was 13 years old. The trauma of me being beat, from me being beat and abused and stuff like that, I lost control of my bladder. I remember at 13 years old waking up in the middle of the night and urine all over the place. I lost the function of actually knowing to get up and go to the bathroom, or I was too scared to get up and go to the bathroom, so I'd rather just piss on myself. Because I figured if I was seen getting up and leaving my room by her, that she would attack me or she would do something to me. So I would literally choose to urinate on myself, or when I was sleeping, I would lose the function of holding it, or I would hold it too long while I was sleeping and my subconscious was telling me to stay in bed, and I would piss on myself. I was wearing men's diapers at 12 and 13 years old. How humiliating was that? Because she beat me so bad, I didn't want to get out of bed. Or I was so afraid that my body was not letting me wake up because I knew what was going to happen. So all the stuff that was going on, everything that I was going through, all the stuff that the school seen, everything from start to finish. Why did they never do anything? Why did they never step in and say something is wrong here? Why? As many times as the school seen things were wrong with me and they pulled me aside as a child and I would say, nothing, I just fell down. And these are not things that happen from just falling down. Why did they never step in and say, this child needs help? It's not normal to have gaping wounds in your body and bruises all over the place from just falling down. I went to my teacher one time. They called me into the office, and my teacher asked me, she says, is everything okay? Are you okay? What's going on? And I said, I'm getting beat at home. My mom is beating me, and she's not just beating me, she's hurting me like really bad, and I don't want to talk right here. I want to talk somewhere else in private. I don't want to talk in the middle of the classroom or over in the corner where we were at. So she took me to the office, and I told the principal about what was going on. The principal called my mom to come pick me up. The principal called my mother to come pick me up from school after I just got done pouring my heart out about everything that was going on. Well, I think you should take the rest of the day off school. I'm going to call your mom, and I'm going to have your mom come pick you up. Right. So I went home, and I got beat for the next 3 hours, off and on, every time she felt like throwing something at me. Stuck me in the corner in the kitchen, brought the kids into the kitchen, the 2 little babies that she had, pulled every knife out of the drawer, set it on the table, all the little paring knives and the little cutlery knives and everything else, and stuck me in the corner, and had the children grab the knives and try to throw them off the kitchen or across the kitchen and use me as a pegboard, trying to throw the knives at me, encouraging the children to grab them and throw them at me across the kitchen. She thought it was funny. She sat there laughing. Right at the end, there was one long, like 14-inch knife left. You know, one of those, I think they're called bread knives, and they got the slit in the end of it. It's got like the top little tongue, and then it's got a slit, and then it curves down. I don't know if it's a bread knife or steak knife or something. It's got all the serrations in it, real deep serration marks. That's the last knife that was left. And I'm standing there, and I got my hands on my face, and I'm just this little boy just shaking or whatever, and crying and screaming. And she takes that knife and she tosses it over at me. Lands right in my knee. I've got a big scar like this in my knee. I've got a big scar like that. It went right in my knee, and it stopped, hit the bone, and then fell right back out and ripped a hole about that big right in my leg. You can see all the inside of my leg, bleeding all over the place and stuff like that. Of course, she was not my biological mother. It wasn't until I was 13 years old, when I ran away and I was living on the streets and stuff, when I eventually did go to the police. I'm sitting down with the police officers after they're taking pictures of me and everything else and writing all the mark wounds and the scab wounds and everything all over my body. I told about that. Yeah, I want to sit down sometime this weekend, and I want to tell you guys my whole story. You know, the gist of it, so you can keep track of everything that's going on, so I don't leave so many of you in the dark. And I feel bad about that, because my main focus was to bring Sophie and Sloan into this stuff, because these girls are little angels that gave me a voice. They gave you guys a voice, that brought us all together so we can communicate and talk that we would have never known about each other. And I've needed this for years. This is so much therapy for me. It's unreal. So this woman got custody of me when I was like 2 years old. My mother lives down in Louisiana, my birth mother. And basically the story that I was told and is the most consistent is when she gave birth to me, she was fine taking care of me. She didn't make a lot of money or anything like that, but she would have been okay. But because of how bad my grandparents treated my uncles and aunts growing up, they saw it as the perfect opportunity to basically pay the court system to rip me out of her life, and they wanted to take care of me. My grandfather wanted another chance at raising a child himself instead of my mother doing it, because my mother wasn't really providing. So my grandparents basically paid the court system a ton of money to fight her and prove her to be an unfit parent, and they got custody of me. You know, when my grandfather was alive, people in town would talk about how he would carry me in his arm, you know, like, this is my little man, you know, working on cars with me and going to the cigar shop and going playing poker and stuff with his friends. He'd take me everywhere with him, just like I was his little prince, everywhere. And everybody says, my aunts and uncles say, he would baby you, man. He would do things for you that he would never do for us growing up. He would literally baby you, and you were his little prince. You could do no wrong in his eyes. Grandpa would give you everything. But Grandma died. Now, there was another child involved. My mother had another child a year later, my sister Gracie. Now, Gracie wasn't treated good. My grandpa and my grandma did not want another child, but because my mother at the time couldn't take care of her and she was on drugs, DCFS came in and actually took her and put her in the custody of my grandparents as well. So whenever my uncle would stop by off the road, I love my uncle to death. He could have been my father, and I wish he would have been. He's an amazing man. It works really, really hard. He lives down in Arkansas. He's got a trucking company, and he's raised an amazing young girl. And he said, Rich, when I would go by the house, I'd pull my truck up, my big old M&M green stub-nose semi out front of the house, and I'd come in, and your sister would be stuck in the pen. And you'd be over in Grandpa's lap, and he's drinking his coffee and everything else, and she's stuck in the playpen with a shitty, pissy diaper. Nobody caring for her crying and screaming. She's got butt rash and everything else down her legs. Nobody giving a crap about her. And I'd pick her up. I'd pull her out of her pen. I'd go get her diapers and change her and stuff like that. I'd take her out to the truck with me. We'd go driving around for a few hours. I'd get her all doctored up with salve and get her all cleaned up and things like that. And he said, I loved you guys dearly. And when I found out right after Grandma died, Grandpa couldn't take it. He drank himself to death. He was drinking himself to death. And they say when they're that old, when you're that old and you're that connected, you've been together that long, when one dies, the other one probably, or more than likely the other one dies shortly after. It's just a matter of months, a year, or whatever, because they kind of shut down themselves. It's like you build each other up and feed off each other and keep each other alive as you're going through your years. Well, it wasn't too much later, Grandpa couldn't take it. No. Wait, see, this is where I got to backtrack for a second. It was the other way around. Grandpa died first. That's what it was. And Grandma drank herself to death. And that's what it was. Grandpa drinking a lot. He died. I'm trying to remember all this stuff because my aunts and uncles, they don't like talking about this part of the story. There is something that they didn't. So Grandpa died first, and Grandma tried to continue caring for us, and she actually died with us in the bed with her. Like I said, I'm trying to remember all this stuff as it's going. And anyway, one died, and the other one died, and we were left with her. But when she died, we were actually in the bed with her the morning she died. And one of the aunts or uncles come over to the house. I forget who it was. Again, a lot of my family, we don't talk. And over the years, I've tried to put these stories and stuff together and make them make sense in my head to try to figure out what happened. They never cared about Gracie. They only cared about me. Well, the next of kin was my uncles and my aunts, right? The next of kin was my uncles and my aunts, and my Uncle Terry wanted custody of us because he had a woman that was with him, but nobody else had a significant other. So what do you think happened when DCFS and the court system was looking at everything? He's the only one that actually could provide a life for the children with a mother and father type figure. So what do? They award custody to them. Me and my sister both went to my Uncle Terry and this woman, Marie. And we were raised Southern Illinois, out in the country. She had a couple kids with him. He was a good father. My uncle down in Arkansas said, I didn't want you guys to go with them. I never trusted my brother to begin with. There were some things that happened back in the past with our actual mom that we don't know what actually happened to her around the time that my brother was in her care. So I knew from the beginning that you should not have been with him. But they awarded you custody, or they awarded him custody of you instead of any of us other single people in the family. But he said, I was willing to do whatever it took at 22 years old as a truck driver to provide for you and your sister. I would do anything for you guys, and I was trying to fight for you. We argued about it. We fist fought over it, and it was breaking up the family, and DCFS gave custody to them. Well, later on, 4 or 5 years old, they're fighting, they're on drugs and stuff all the time. You know, coming and going. About, I'm like 5 years old, my sister's like 4 years old. It's down in Mount Vernon, Illinois. I remember it just like it was yesterday. She was dragging a trash out across the street, and a big old train was coming down the road, down the tracks, and the neighbor was watching. And she's dragging the trash out to the dumpster, and the train's coming right at her, right? And that train come flying by and almost hit her. It come flying by, and nobody was watching her, and it ripped that bag of garbage out of her hand, and she was just going to go lay it over there by the garbage. We're out in the country, nobody cared. And when that train came by and ripped that bag of garbage out of her hand, because the suction of the train, it blew it all over the tracks and everything else, the neighbor come running out of the house. The neighbor starts reporting to DCFS what's going on. DCFS steps up and brings her into their care. And eventually what ends up happening, which I don't know if we really need to get into that. I always get all broke up and emotional over this. Me and my sister were like best friends. We would play dolls together. She was always the teacher. I was always the student. I always listened to what she said because she was the boss, and that's how we were. I will keep this video up. And that's how me and her were. You know, we were close. We were super, super, super close. So DCFS had us going to meet these people at McDonald's on the weekends. And I didn't know who these people were. They would come in their nice clothes, and they're well dressed, and they always smelled good, and he always was real handsome with his hair, and the lady always had pretty dresses and stuff on, and she was just really, really, really nice and well put together. And they would come and play with her and joke with her and love on her and stuff like that. And I wanted that. I wanted that to happen to me. How come I can't go over there with them and them do that to me? Because I don't get that at home. I want to go with her, and I want those people to do that to me. I want to be with those people over there. That looks fun, you know. That looks like that's what love is. And I never had that. So I wanted to go with whoever those people were that she was with. I was willing to just go with them. I don't care. That looks normal. And one weekend we went to McDonald's to meet them after several visits, little like 1-2 hour visits, and she was gone. They took her, and I didn't see her again until she was 16 years old. She was in the Wheaton Girls Home in Wheaton, Illinois. And this is, you know, foster cares and you know, on down the road after, and I found out she was there, and I went to visit her. And after all these years, you know, 12 years later, I see her sitting down in a yellow jumpsuit. And I walk in, and she's sitting at this table, and she looks just like she did when she was 4 years old. I started bawling my eyes out. I ran up to her, and I hugged her and squeezed her, and she says, "Oh my God, you're just the biggest guy," and she said, "You're my big strong brother," and everything else. And I'm crying in her arms, and she's crying in my arms, and we sit down at the table, and I was like, "You know, you're my best friend. I love you to death." And she said, "I know, and it's always going to be that way, even to this day." You know, I don't talk to her all the time. I tell her, "You know, you're my best friend." And she says, "You know, I got in trouble for." I don't know if she would even want me to put her business out right now, but hell, it really don't matter. It's so long ago. She said, "I like cars." And I said, "Well, go figure, I like cars." And she says, one morning She said, I don't know if you know about my mom and my dad, but my mom and my dad have always kind of kept up and asked about you and stuff like that. And we never really knew where you were, but sometimes foster care would give us some information that you're okay and you're living in this area, but they could never really tell us about you or where you were at. And she said, my mom and dad wanted to adopt you too, and the foster care system wouldn't let them do it. And they always wanted you to be part of their life. So her parents ended up being those people that picked her up in the McDonald's back when we were 4 and 5 years old, ended up being professors at a college, like really prestigious, smart people, really nice home in Wheaton, Illinois, and raised her to just, gave her everything, put her through school and all this other stuff. And she said, I couldn't run the straight and narrow. I'd get up and I'd see the neighbor's vehicle running in the driveway, and I like cars and I wanted to drive it. So I decided to jump in the vehicle while it was warming up early in the morning, and I took off driving it. And she said it wasn't just one time that I did this, it was 2 times that I did this. And I said, sis, what were you thinking? That's kind of like, that's some crazy stuff out of a movie. And, we're kind of looking at each other like, look at all the crazy stuff that's happened in your life, everything that I explained to her and stuff. And she said, that's like some stuff that you'd see in a movie. So she said, it's not necessarily that abnormal. I just was a teenager and I made a stupid choice, and I turned around and I did it again. I didn't learn from it the first time. And she said, now here I am sitting in a girl's home, I did something stupid and now I have to pay for it. She never asked nobody to bail her out or to feel sorry for her or anything like that. She knew she was wrong. She owned up to her responsibility and stuff, and she did the time. And my mother, during this whole entire time, she had no idea where we were at. My birth mother, where I was taken from her as a child. I didn't meet my birth mother until I was 25 years old, after I come back from Iraq. I just got back from deployment. I'd been single for almost 2 years. I've been in Iraq for 15 months. So 2 years abstinent, no females, no nothing. Come back and, my birthday, my friends are asking me to go out to the strip club with them. I've never been to a strip club before. I didn't really want to go to a strip club. And they're trying to convince me, and they're trying to say, let's go, come on, let us take you. So I said, all right, let's go. I go. Well, the first girl I walked into at the club was the girl right at the security girl at the door. She was the one taking everybody's money. Needless to say, 3 months later, I married this girl. In the midst of our marriage, I get a home for us, trying to take care of her just like a man should, look out for his wife. And I fell in love with this woman. I finally was able to trust somebody that I was willing to give up the rest of my life to be with. And my uncle calls me up and he says, hey, guess who I got in the car with me? And I said, I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. Who do you got in the car with you? And he says, I got your mom in the car with me up here in northern Arkansas. She was in a bad relationship up in Missouri, and the guy was beating on her. And she decided to leave. She grabbed all her money and stuff and jumped on a train, and she was headed south. And I told her I'd come pick her up at the train station. And I got to talking to her and stuff like that. And I said, you can't be my mom. You understand that? And she said, I know, baby, I know. And I said, you can be my friend, though. We can learn to be friends with each other, and we can build a relationship that way. And maybe we can trust each other as mother-son, and we can build that relationship. But first, it comes from friends first. I cannot accept you into my life as my mother because you've never been in my life. But I'm willing to work towards that at some point. Let's be friends first. And she said, I think you're so smart. And she said, I've heard about you, and I've seen people talk to you and stuff like that. I don't know if she was a good mom when I was little. I really don't, because I was only with her for just a couple years. My grandparents got custody of me. I was told she was a good mom. She didn't provide a lot for us. We had the minimal. We ate garbage food, and it was my grandparents wanted custody of me, so they fought for custody of me, and they got me. They paid enough money to people to convince them that So, I'm talking to my mom and I'm on the phone with her, and I said, you know what? I'm going to walk out on a limb here and I'm going to ask you to do this for me. Can you get back on a train and can you head down here to Louisiana? I'm in the military down here. I just got back from Iraq. I've got an army home. I'm married and I've got an extra room. So maybe you can come on down here to Louisiana. Just jump back on the train. Come on down here. I'll talk to my wife about what's going on. I got to talk to her first, but I don't even need approval. Just come on down. And I got a room for you. You can get a job down here and stuff. You can restart your whole entire life all over again here. And we could build a relationship with each other. And we can learn to make up for all the years that have been lost. If you just come down here and you give it a chance to be friends first. Well, she came down there and she moved in with me. She got a job. She was doing okay. And what ended up happening is she was fighting with my wife all the time. She's arguing and fighting and arguing and fighting and arguing and fighting about stuff. And they were arguing about some of the most simplest things that nobody would. Who's going to cook me dinner? Who's going to wash my clothes? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? And I'm single now. I'm not married or anything like that. But it was kind of one of those things where I didn't want anything to continue, the fights between them. And it got to the point where they were literally arguing like they were going to physically fight with each other. So eventually I got to a point where I was like, you got to move out. You can't disrespect my wife that way. You can't come in and jump in my life and try to control my life and stuff and control her life, because this is her home. I'm her husband. I told you I wanted to be friends with you first, and I don't like the way you disrespect her and talk bad about her. I've put up with it long enough. I realize this is not going to work. You're going to have to take some time and look for a place, and you're going to have to get out of my home. I'm sorry, but I have to stand by my wife's side. That is my wife. And I'll do whatever it takes to make it right with her, because she's the one I'm married to. I'm supposed to be with for the rest of my life. And she hated me for that. My mother literally hated me for that. Oh my God, I can't believe you would take her side over me. I'm your mom, and I'm this, and I'm that. And everybody owes me an apology, and woe is me, and all this other stuff. And I said, who the hell are you? Who the hell are you to tell me that somebody owes you an apology? You gave up and walked away and let grandma and grandpa take me, and I went through all the shit that I went through my entire life while you never came back and tried to fight for me. What mother gives up that easy and you just let them do it? You let them do it over some money. You got into drugs. I heard about what you did. You're going off with all these men and stuff like that. She was jealous. My mother was jealous of my wife because she wanted the relationship. She wanted to be close to me, just like my wife was close to me. Now I'm single now. I don't have a wife. I'm not with anybody. I'm newly single. I dated a girl for about a year, and about 3 months ago I sat down at a table with her and I said, look, you know, going into a relationship with me, I'm a very serious, very responsible person. I take care of my partner. I make sure everything's taken care of. But I don't think you're ready for somebody like me. I don't think you're ready for that type of relationship like I'm ready for. And we're just growing apart. There's nothing wrong with her. She's a beautiful, kind-hearted woman. But we're just two different places in life. So she went her way and I went my way. It was a mutual thing. We just realized as sensible adults that it just was not a fit for us. She's a great person. I had nothing bad to say about her, but she's going a different way in life and I'm going a different way in life. And it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work out. And my mom, she moved out of the house. She went from home to home to home, and years later, I'm headed back down to Arkansas from Michigan, and as I'm driving, I get a phone call, And somebody that knew me gave my blood mother my phone number. And she calls me up and she says, "Oh, I just wanted to talk to you for a little bit." And I says, "Okay, um, I'm willing to talk to you. I mean, after all, I'm not going to deny you are my mother. I'm not saying you're not my mother, but we have to be friends before we're anything else." And we're talking, and good things are coming of the conversation. And all of a sudden, I don't have any children. No, I do not. I've wanted children for years, but every woman that I've been with, it's never been one of those situations. One of them was completely my fault. She was the woman that I should have spent the rest of my life with, and I ended up screwing that up. Um, she was the woman I would have. I got scared when I went into the military. I was with a woman. Her name was Sarah, and she lives in I think Mantino, Illinois, or something like that. And I was madly in love with this girl. Everything about her I was infatuated with. Everything. I mean, the way she did her hair, the way she smelled, the way uh, the dimples in her cheek, and how she wasn't a perfect person, and just how she was just so loving and caring about everything. I was infatuated with her. I was in love with her. Everything about my life was about her. But when I went to the military, I proposed to her over the phone because I couldn't wait any longer. And I was hanging out of the barracks window while I had my little phone, and I said, "You know what? I can't wait anymore, baby. I love you. Everything about you just drives me wild. I want to marry you and spend the rest of my life with you." And I said it in front of all the soldiers, and they were screaming, "Ah!" and everything in the background. And you know, I bought a big old nice expensive ring and sent it to her. I saved up all my money to do it. And when I got home, I freaked out. I didn't know why she wanted to be attached to me so much. I didn't know why she wanted to be all over me all the time. I could be in the bathroom and she was talking to me through the door. I could be, in the garage working on something or whatever. I left boot camp in my job training and went home for 2 weeks, and she was clung to me the entire time. The entire time, she would just never. She would never give me the space to breathe, and I got scared, and I didn't know what to do. And then I went off to the military, and she's calling me all the time when I'm down in Louisiana and stuff, and I'm finally getting settled in my base, and the phone calls and phone calls and phone calls and phone calls and checking up on me all the time. And I started to literally freak the hell out. And then one day when I was on the phone, I was going through the drive-through at Arby's, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. I can't marry you. I'm sorry. I really can't do it. And I freaked out. I didn't know how to handle the situation. I ruined everything. And that did it for her. She was supposed to be the woman that I spent the rest of my life with. That would have been the woman that that I would have spent the rest of my life with. But you move on. And I learned from that. And then I got married after I came back from Iraq. The woman I told you my mom was disrespecting, moving into my home and stuff like that. And several months after that, after my mom moved out, I noticed that something started changing. More money started coming up missing. I had saved up like almost $75,000. My bank account was nice. And, a young man with that much money, being in Iraq, saving everything, not being able to spend any money on anything, I thought, I was really going to be able to provide a good future for her in the long run, and it would be a good little nest egg to put away, and you just keep putting away and working, and that money started coming up missing. And she started spending more and spending more and spending more and spending more, and it was like, where's all this lingerie coming from that I never see you wear, and tags on it still in the drawer? She would buy hundreds of dollars worth of stuff, and she would just leave it in the damn dresser. She would never even wear anything. She would never put it on. She would buy it just to have it. Hundreds of dollars worth of books, $300-400 purses and shoes and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? Are you here for me, or are you here to use me? and I found out she wasn't a citizen of the United States. She is Indonesian, but she spent most of her life here on temporary residency. And she used me. She used me for residency. She used me to become naturalized. I got her. I paid all the money and stuff like that. Got her natural, or we got her immigration lawyer. She was naturalized because I was in the military. It was expedited, and then she just stopped. She stopped doing any kind of wife stuff at all. Just done. So, time went on, and I told her to get the hell out of my life because I realized what she was after, and you know, I divorced her. I drew up my own divorce paperwork. I sent it down to Florida where she was at. I filed for divorce, and she didn't get anything because she had been literally stealing from me. And I took all the bank accounts, had everything notarized, highlighted all the stuff and all the money she'd been spending, and sent it along with the divorce paperwork. And the judge said, you're not getting nothing, man. I mean, you've basically been using this guy. You're divorced. I mean, you don't deserve anything from him. I don't see any income coming in from you at all. All you've been doing is just spending all the money and stuff. I got it all notarized. I had all my family write statements and stuff on the whole entire situation. And I basically got my own divorce. I did my own divorce. I was my own lawyer. I paid $405 for the paperwork and the filing fee and did it all myself. And I sat down with a lawyer, and he threw away all the stuff that didn't need to be filled out. And he said, you fill out this paperwork, which was like 20 pages, and she'll fill out this other stuff, and that's it. Your divorce will be finalized. So I did it all myself. I just needed him to tell me what needed to be filled out, so I paid him his hour consultation time, which I think was close to $200, and then the $405 for the paperwork, and I sent it down there, and I got my own divorce. And I haven't been I haven't been with anybody like that since. I've dated on and off for years now. I've been in some serious relationships, but I'm a very serious person. I'm a very conscious person of what's going on in the world. I care about a lot of stuff that other people don't care about. I seem to keep getting involved with really young girls that don't have a handle on life. I care about what's going on in other countries. I care about what's going on in children. I care about being active in the community and stuff like that. I care about doing my social media stuff, where I'm teaching about how I've lost 125 pounds on the keto diet, and I'm active in socially overall. And there's not a lot of women that can handle that. They don't like somebody giving their time to other people. And I think that's a huge thing for me now, is because of the Patriot groups that I run with other admin, my own groups that I run, that I teach people about health and how I study and stuff, and what I learned about the corrupt systems, and like with our medical industry and stuff like that, on how, a lot of this stuff doesn't make any sense. At 34 years old, I realize now that the majority of stuff that's being recommended to patients in general is because of money. It's because they need to keep the pharmaceutical companies in on everything. They need to keep the doctors bringing these patients in and keeping them on insulin and metformin, and a lot of stuff that could be solved and taken care of because of poor recommendations by the medical facilities. So with me learning all this stuff through life, and then what happened to me turning me into this research monster where I'm studying, looking up things all the time, a lot of times people can't deal with somebody like that because I almost seem like I have something to say about everything, just because that the PTSD that I've dealt with has turned me into something where I want to be knowledgeable in multiple facets. I want to be knowledgeable in multiple areas. I don't want to be dumb about things, so I just research constantly all the time. One of the things that I never understood, and this is a scenario that I'll give you. A lady came to me, and her name's Stephanie Thompson. She's a subscriber here on the channel. Every once in a while you'll see her pop up. She came to me about 8 or 9 months ago, and she said, Rich, I don't know what's going on. I've been watching you talk about health and all the things that you've learned in general. Just since I've been following you, you've lost a ton of weight, and my blood sugar when I wake up in the morning, this is just a scenario. I'm not trying to retract. I just want to give you a scenario on kind of like what happened to me abuse-wise that led up to my knowledge and what's going on in my life now, and how I'm not just dealing with children, I'm dealing with adults that have been dealing with medical conditions for their whole entire life, because I genuinely care about people. I feel like people are abused by society in general, and we continually let it happen, and we don't do anything about it. So I'm the person trying to do something about it. I'm trying to do stuff that other people won't do. So now she came to me, Stephanie said, my fasting blood sugar when I wake up is like 160 to 200. And I said, oh, that's not good. Did you make sure you go get labs and stuff like that? You got to get labs done. You got to see what's going on. And she says, you know what? Yeah, I did go get labs done, but I didn't have the results back. And I said, how long has this been going on? And she says, well, it's been going on for a little bit now. And I said, well, if you consistently have fasting blood sugar like that, you know, half hour after you wake up, if your blood sugar is so elevated, that tells me you're probably a diabetic. And she said, I don't think I'm a diabetic. I said, I think you are. I think based on science and medical and what you're telling me right now is you have the symptoms of a diabetic. I'm not a doctor, but I'm telling you that's what's going on with you. You're probably a diabetic. So she gets her results back, and the doctor says your A1C is like 7.2. And I said, what did I tell you? I said, these are things that you learn as you dig in and you study about things. A fasting blood sugar over 100, once you start getting up to that 130, 140 and above, you probably got a pre-diabetic situation going on, or you are a diabetic. So I help people across the board. I asked her if she wouldn't mind considering doing a carnivore diet. And people are like, what do you mean a carnivore diet? It's not a keto diet. You're basically eating animal products, but you're eating like liver, beef, the fat, everything. All the things that people tell you not to do. I think this is going to be more beneficial to you than anything else. Well, I think she thought I was a little crazy at first. Well, after 8 months of doing it, she's lost over 70 pounds. All her lab work is completely fine. Her fasting blood sugar is all the way down to like 105, 100, under 100. She said, Rich, you saved my life, man. You saved my life. I don't know how you do what you do, but you saved my life. And I said, it's not that I saved anything. It's we work together to do this. So we'll continue this story another time. But I just wanted to be able to talk to you guys, to witness to you tonight, to let you know that it's okay to not say things sometimes. It's okay to not be mean to people and stuff like that and doubt everybody. So we don't need to go to a bunch of other channels and attack people. We don't need to go and think the whole entire situation with Sophie is, even if it comes back that Sophie has been completely coached, there was something much more than that. We're living through Sophie right now. She's brought the entire world together for us to communicate, talk, witness to each other, and be able to build a relationship. Now people have a voice that they never had before. So even if the whole entire situation falls apart, and Michael was completely guilty from the beginning, this was not for nothing. All right, guys, I love y'all. Be blessed. Take care. And I'm gonna come back so we have more time to talk about all this and do this and maybe draw some things together. So if any of you guys have any questions at all, if nothing makes sense at all, let me know where to start the next time I come back, so we can just draw it all in. I mean, I can start from the finish and work my way all the way through, or if there's another topic you want to talk about, we can do that as well. But Sophie is not for nothing. Even if the whole thing falls apart and she was coached the entire time, we're living through what happened because of this girl. She was abused one way or another, and she's basically gave us a voice. Sloan, she's basically gave us a voice. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get off of here. Y'all have a great night. I love y'all.